Hello, everyone, and welcome to Simply Technical. Back here again with another episode. Title says episode 31. I don't know if I trust Keaton. I think it's episode 33, but I'm not for sure.
Oh, my bad.
Who knows? I guess we'll know in post. Like I said, Keaton's here. Evan. We kind of want to talk World War III. And really just start off with like how realistic we kind of think it is, and just kind of go through just some facts that we know about it and all the crazy things we're seeing online, which we won't show here because they're kind of graphic. So obviously, United States kind of fighting a little bit of a two-front war, but not really fighting it. So, Keaton, why do you think this is realistic or not, World War III?
Well, I guess I would just start off and say that it seems like that's all the war and stuff is all that we can see on social media now. So that was kind of the natural topic today, and I've been wondering, what are the actual chances of a sort of World War III? And if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said essentially almost none. But it feels like we're, maybe this is just it's just a feeling. It's not like I know for a fact because no one knows. But it feels like we are tilting a little bit on the side of, oh, this actually feels a little bit realistic, like something bad could really happen between you have this new axis powers in Russia, China, and Iran's proxy states through their sort of terror cells in the Middle East. And then you have the sort of allied powers, and essentially the U.S. who's funding everything. And you have the small, it's almost like U.S. proxies in a way, like Ukraine. Israel is its own sort of independent, very powerful military. But we definitely have always sent military aid to Israel. So you sort of feel this like new allies powers. And I guess I should also throw Turkey on the Axis powers as well. So, and then you have the rest of Europe that sides with us, but it's also, funded majority by us. That's right now.
So like, there's NATO, and then
But NATO is even weird. Like NATO, I mean, there's NATO, but also Turkey is a part of NATO, and that they're talking a big game right now.
yeah, and I think Turkey even said like they had some some rallies or something for Hamas, which, if you don't know, if you've been sleeping under a rock, has been attacking Israel. They killed a bunch of people, a bunch of innocent people, a bunch of military personnel from Israel, and then they kind of said, "Hey, we give up. We're just kidding. We're not going to fight back anymore." And then Israel's like, "Well, that's not true. We're going to fight you." But now all these other countries are coming out in support of Hamas, which, whether they're a terrorist group or not, I guess is up to you. But they've definitely been doing a bunch of terrorist acts against Israel.
David, I mean, this is not
it's not new.
The biggest attack. Yeah, this is not new. This is something that's going on for almost 40 years.
But then Turkey said, "Hey, we hate Israel, so whoever's attacking Israel, we like." And we say that we support Hamas because that upsets Israel and the Western world. So I've heard some people describe it as this is the West versus
the East.
Versus, like, I almost want to say like Islam. I mean, all these countries are majority Islamic, right?
I mean, the sort of Arab states, yes, but China is definitely not.
I guess China's not, yeah.
And Russia, the southern part is a little bit more, but Russia's
a whole is not, yeah.
Yeah.
Orthodox Jew, right? Or used to be.
It's kind of Christian Orthodox, I think, but they're not really at the same time. So yeah, it's a weird. It is a really weird alliances on their side. Where I guess yes, it feels like the West versus right now. The majority of what we see is sort of radical Islam. But I think it's almost, you could almost call it more like this West versus East culture, Western civilization versus Eastern civilization. And the place that's been the war for as long as time. I mean, it's played out in different religious sects and different religious wars between the Arabs and the between the Arabs and the Jews, between the Christians and the Arabs, and all throughout even like the medieval times up till even today. So it just seems like another variant of that in a way, where
but
it's
with
East.
a lot bigger key players here.
Yes, I mean, that's
I
the
guess
other
World
big.
War. I guess the World
Yeah,
War. Yeah.
I mean, but the thing about today is we can blow the world up 1,000
100
times
times over.
over, versus before you could. I mean, you're basically pretty relegated to your battlefield on who can be harmed.
Yes, it makes it a little scarier. Who was the quote by? World War III will be fought with modern weapons, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know
so
what weapons World War III will be fought with, but I do know that World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
yeah. So that is a very true statement. If things escalate, because even if you launch a nuke and you say you were to stop it, say you were to shoot it down somewhere, like you're still radioactivity is still going into the atmosphere, into the world, like
Yeah,
a
but
lot
then,
of issues.
and it's also like, well, what's the response to something like that? It could be. I mean, you don't ever want to start a nuclear war because it's just mutually assured destruction, essentially.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so are they calling themselves the Axis powers?
no,
Like,
no,
okay,
that's just my
okay, because I mean that would
thematic
be pretty.
moment.
Well, I've heard somebody else call them the Axis powers. So like,
Yeah,
and from what I remember, they said that that's what they're calling themselves. Which, if you're calling yourself that, you're the bad guy.
yeah, it's really weird to. I mean, I always want to think like, you never know, or we never know who is actually like in war. It almost seems like anybody could be the bad guy. No matter what, we're gonna think we're the good guys. They're gonna think they're the good guys. We're gonna think they're the bad guys. But this really feels like. I mean, it feels as cut and dry as World War II, where there was actually very bad guys, and this sort of feels like that right now. At least in part. I guess if you're Israel, you probably really feel like that. Uh, and Russia, Ukraine is kind of like that, but the attacks were not nearly as heinous as the Hamas attacks were. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It really does feel like there's a sort of good versus bad that's shaping up.
Well, is that just because we're biased?
It
But I
could
mean,
be, but it does. That's
I
what
mean,
that's what I think.
their bias is like, okay, we just killed a bunch of innocent people. Like
Yeah,
that seems like a very bad thing to do. But also in a lot of wars, how many people do we kill innocently in the United States that we,
I
in
think
our wars, we
there's.
justify?
Yeah, well, I think there's a huge difference. Obviously, you don't want to kill civilians ever. But I think there is a massive difference between going out of your way and committing heinous acts against civilians versus civilians are caught in the crossfire of war.
Yeah.
In the end, civilians die either way, but there's something that's a little bit more inhumane about the former.
Yeah. Well, I just know like we've gotten some pretty bad people in the past with
Mm-hmm.
like airstrikes and stuff. And obviously there were civilians around, caught in
Oh
the
yeah, I mean, what was
crossfire.
that Afghanistan thing? We
We,
droned a whole family by accident
yeah.
during the exit, like because we thought that they were going to bomb. There was a group going to bomb the airport as we were leaving Afghanistan, and then so we droned it. It turned out it was just an innocent family, and I
Yeah. We'll
mean
never know the full story,
they
but
papered over that story pretty well.
yeah. I don't know. It just is like, yeah, there's definitely gonna be civilians that, take some casualties on both sides. I mean,
Mhm.
I guess United States probably won't take too many civilian casualties unless it's fought here.
Yeah, that won't
Um,
happen.
but I don't know. From my side, it's realistic. It's very realistic. It feels the pendulum is definitely swinging a lot farther towards realistic, in my opinion. But I don't know. I give like an 80% chance. if normal
80%? Oh my
if
gosh.
normal we're at like 40. I mean, I think a lot of these countries like Iran, and Turkey are probably gonna try to destroy Israel. I mean, I feel like they have some actual momentum going.
Mhm.
And then they actually have some backing. They're like, well, our military is not all that great, but which I say that they have. Turkey has some modern stuff.
Um,
It's not the same as ours. I mean, there's Boeing and some other defense has sold stuff to Turkey.
Yeah, because they're a
And
NATO member.
Saudi isn't Saudi Arabia also NATO?
Saudi Arabia is, I don't know if they're NATO, but Saudi Arabia is a huge player in just the whole situation, as because they are like a lot of people think the Hamas attack was because there was the Abraham Accords and the peace deals with Saudi Arabia were beginning to take form between Saudi Arabia and Israel, and I think they thought that this could disrupt those peace deals. But it seems like I don't think Saudi Arabia has voiced support for either side right now. So, which makes me think that they are not going to be on the side of Hamas.
So they're not currently in Saudi Arabia, but I know they have definitely received planes from
Yeah,
the United States
and you're selling
defense.
them.
I know that they have like some AWAC stuff, so like mainly for surveillance, but I don't think they have very many fighters.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously the big player is China and Russia. Like
Those are the real
I
keys.
I think Turkey probably has a lot of people and a lot of power, but I don't that one thing is certain that the United States will rule the air um, when it comes to these fights. So I don't know.
I wonder how much China China would be hesitant to actually do anything because we are so intertwined economically with them. We're both completely dependent on each other. And I always complain about how dependent we are on China, but they are very dependent on us as well. And I don't know. That's the one thing that holds me back of this being like a much higher percentage. It's just that China has so much economic dependence on us. And economic ties tend to uh, lessen the need or want to go to war between two countries.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point. But the we talked offline about this. Whoops, is that they will use anything. I think they're just on that side. And when something, when the metaphorical bomb goes off and the war, quote unquote, World War III starts, if you don't consider it already starting with what's going
Mhm.
on, then they will just use that as an excuse to attack Taiwan and say, oh, well, you're already worried about that. We're going to go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
We've been wanting to do this for a long time. We consider them already a part of us. But while you focus on fighting Russia, Ukraine, or fighting, through Ukraine, Israel against Russia, and some of these Middle Eastern countries, we're just going to go ahead and do this. And spoils of war.
Yeah. I I guess
And
I
I
can
mean,
see that.
the United States, if you're in war, you can't afford to put sanctions on China like that.
Mhm.
Like you can't afford it. Like it's
No, yeah.
like everything would slow down.
I mean, there are entire manufacturing base, so we are actually in a more precarious position than they are in when it comes to actual war dependence.
Yeah, and the really sucky thing about China would be their people will start to starve. Like they will. I don't know. This is my opinion. I don't really know this to be fact, but they would starting to ration, like people in China would just die as casualties as civilians. I don't know. Maybe
Maybe I don't know enough about
that's pretty
China
far
to
fetched.
really. I don't know enough about China to know their inner workings, but that seems to be like a mindset in Gaza is no, we're not going to surrender hostages all of our civilians can starve instead. So I mean, maybe that carries through to those other countries as
Well, I
well.
mean, you have to think about they're like China. You're not free. Like
No, yeah, I mean,
they ration everything to you. Like everything
yeah,
is controlled by the government. So I don't know. That's just
yeah.
my
And
thought.
if you speak out, I mean, I don't
The
want to
Hong
change the
Kong
subject
stuff,
too much,
but
but I still think I mean, the Hong Kong stuff is crazy. I still think the Jack Ma stuff is insane. I mean, that billionaire over there who was basically their Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, but he was an even bigger celebrity. He spoke out against the government in the most like
nonchalant
plain,
way.
nonchalant way. Not really that big of a deal. I think he complained a little bit about how he wishes they had more freedom, and not really ever seen him much in public anymore. He kind of got disappeared. They'll show his face every now and then to show that he's still
They still
alive.
alive.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I'm fine." He's not fine.
Yeah, it's either say you're fine or die.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, the Chinese government does not care about anyone.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't think they would just do a direct attack on the United States or United States allies. I mean, I guess if you consider Taiwan as an ally, right? But like, I don't
They're an
know.
ally. Yeah, they're an ally. Still wonder what we would do in that situation.
I guess it depends on who's in administration.
Yeah,
So okay, so on the United States side, we have NATO, which a lot of the NATO countries are very small. I mean, you have North Macedonia, pretty small country. Slovakia, Slovenia, Turkey, technically. UK, like UK is not very big. Estonia, Greece, Latvia. We're kind of going over the smaller countries. Canada doesn't really have much of a military, do they?
no.
Croatia, Chechnya, Denmark, like
Don't we,
Albania.
don't
These
we
are all
spend
tiny
more?
countries.
Don't we spend more on the military than like the whole world put together like 3 times over or
I don't
something?
know if that's true, but
Okay,
it probably is close.
yeah.
United
Maybe it's more
States.
than the next one 3 times by 3x.
United States military budget versus other countries. Let's see. China, let's see. We spend, according to this statistica.com, we spend 877 billion in military funding a year. The next closest is China at 292 billion. And then after that, 86.4 billion from Russia. So,
Okay.
yeah, the next several for sure.
Yeah.
Israel at 23.4 billion, which I'm sure we give a bunch of that money to them.
Yeah.
Because they don't, I mean, what does Israel export?
Geniuses.
I,
Nobel Prize winners, basically.
yeah, but that's worthless. Like that doesn't generate any money. I mean, I guess it could, but yeah. India at 81.4. So if I get my calculator out. We do quite a bit more than everybody else.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, yeah. We're definitely several times over the next, I don't know, 10 countries. So which, I mean, we have more planes than anybody, more aircraft carriers. There was something recently, China tried to release some aircraft carriers and they sank, I think, or broke.
Really?
Yeah, they did not. They tried to release one. Yeah, that was 2014. Let's see.
Do you
Go ahead.
Do you think so in the case that there was a World War III, do you think how do you think Americans right now would react? Like it seems so polarized on the Israel situation, and maybe it's not actually that polarized. It's just kind of
because
social
we're on
media
Twitter.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the news outlets would be against. Like I said, it depends on who's in power or who's the admin in the United States. I mean, if Trump was to start a war, I think he
Oh
would be
gosh,
raked over the coals.
oh my gosh, it would be insane.
Like, and I don't really know. He doesn't have any type of military experience. I mean, he didn't start a war or wasn't. We weren't in a war when he was president, so I can't really say. But with Joe Biden's approval rating right now, maybe everyone would be hating it,
Yeah.
especially if it was just Israel. Like, if I say just Israel, if Israel was getting attacked, I mean, I think we would do the same thing we're doing for Ukraine. Like, I don't think we would now, especially if it's just like Iran. I say just if it was Iran and maybe Turkey, like doing some and terrorist attacks in Israel, like we'd probably send support. But like, I don't know about. I don't think we'd be knocking down doors with the
Boots
SEALs
on
and
the ground.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
don't know.
just think
We might do some airstrikes at that point.
Yeah, I mean, didn't we send that they were airstriking some
I mean,
Iran,
Obama.
Syria.
We ran out of bombs when Obama was president. So,
It's crazy. Like maybe that's why I should calm down on the World War III thing, is because many of these things are always sort of happening in the background. Right now, it's a little bit bigger of a deal, and there's just an extra spotlight being shown on it, so it's constantly in our heads.
yeah. Well, like I mean, I think I read today that Joe Biden's approval rating is like 35%. So, like, I think if he started a war or like went to war, and the U.S. wasn't directly impacted, the thing is like he's in a bad spot either way. He starts a war. The I guess you could say pro-Palestine groups would probably throw a fit, and then the other people would be like, "Why are you starting a war? That's not really our problem."
Yeah.
And then if you didn't do it, say Israel got attacked, and you kind of did what you're doing with Ukraine, and maybe did some airstrikes, like the pro-Israel side is going to be livid, and then the people in the middle that are saying, "Why are you starting a war that's not involving us?"
Yeah.
Then you're going to have some.
Shoot, I think we should just be containing.
We should be containing what? Sorry.
I feel like we should just be containing this thing and not trying to escalate or get involved and just let Israel do its thing. I mean, we give them money, but I think it's a lot different. It's a little bit different than Ukraine because they actually are an extremely capable military force, and the people they're fighting against are, quite frankly, not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could threaten, like, hey, Iran and Turkey, if we see that you're intervening, like, we're going to have some problems.
That seems like what we've been doing is like we stationed the aircraft carrier over there and said, if you launch any missiles, we're shooting them down and we're going to have problems.
And then we just let Israel kind of take care of, like, clean up.
Yeah.
Which sounds actually terrible because you're killing people.
Yeah.
Shouldn't take that lightly. I'm sorry. But
that's just,
I mean, Israel's been provoked, obviously.
Yeah. And I mean, just getting like a small taste of, so Israel's, I don't know a lot about Israel, but I follow the politics just a little bit in the past, but it is incredibly internally divided over the last few years. Like you know how polarized the U.S. is? It's like that, but a little, maybe even worse.
More passionate, maybe?
More passionate, because you have such a religious passion involved in this whole thing. And I know people that are more on the left there, and the government is much more right wing right now. And right now, against Hamas, the left wing and the right wing are completely united. Like they
all hate Israel.
Yeah, they are like completely want to take out Hamas and basically clean the Gaza Strip out. It doesn't seem like there's any sort of internal divide on that. So I wonder, like, in the U.S. situation, do the left and the right come together like that, or?
I think we're too polarized. I think
we're also too big.
The thing about our politics is we hate each other.
Yeah.
Like when we have arguments, it's like personal. It's like, oh, you support Palestine? Okay, what's your thoughts? And that's what it should be like. And now it's, oh, you support Israel, or okay, you support Palestine? Oh, you're an idiot. Like,
yeah,
I can't believe you'd even think that.
Yeah.
instead of it being like an actual debater trying to see the other side.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
People have been coddled so much that they can't hear other people's opinions. And if you don't believe the same thing that they do, regardless of how serious or not serious it is, how much it impacts you, how much it doesn't impact you, they hate you.
Seems like that's kind of a little bit like we were talking with Connor last time. Was we're like siloed in these social media echo chambers, so we can only ever hear what we want to hear, and that leads us to never want to hear opposing opinions, and that's a dangerous path for a country to go down.
Yes. But I think well, I used to hear when I was in middle school. I think I had some history teachers or something that were pretty like. I think one was in the military, and he talked about Israel and how the only real concern, like the only military power in the world that they were actually concerned about was actually Israel, and how Israel could maybe defeat us, which I don't think is actually true. I don't know if that was just like propaganda in their mind, but like, because I mean, we're 500 times larger than Israel.
Yeah, there's 6 million people there.
So like, it would be. I'm not saying it would be easy, but like we're just far superior. We, regardless of how good our technology is, we just overwhelm them with forces, which you could say that about the other countries as well that are going to try to take out Israel. They're much larger. Now, one thing that Israel does have going for them is you're required to be in the military for 2 years. I think it's 2 years in Israel, unless you have if you have a disability or something that prevents you, then you can. But men and women, so like that, because there's only 6 million people, they're all at least somewhat trained with firearms and military background. So it does pose a little bit of a threat to anyone trying to invade them that, okay, well, you actually have to kill everybody because they are all military trained.
Yeah.
So
well, that's
I don't know.
interesting. I don't think they're, I mean, they're obviously our probably a biggest ally, but I don't think we're just too big.
Yeah. Well, why are we so friendly with Israel? I guess that's a good question for a lot of people that may not know. Do you know why we are so friendly with Israel?
I don't know why so well, but so I think there's two. I'll give broad reasons because I don't know the like deep history of this, but I think there's both this strategic part in that they sort of like are our secondary base of power in the Middle East that sort of holds the Middle East together a little bit. And then this other part where it's kind of like this strange religious reverence / respect between I mean, the U.S. is a secular country, but at the same time, like it's quite a Christian country, and I think a lot of especially our earlier leaders, were all Christian, and I think there's some weird original connection between that and the Jewish state, and that's kind of just originally stuck that way, and now it's become more of a strategic ally.
Yeah, I think the major reason would be no one around them is all that friendly to us. They might be, they might sell things to us, or we might trade, and they might on the surface be friendly, but in reality they are not really all that friendly. Israel is very friendly to us, so having somebody like that, a key player in that area, we can station things there, have bases, and not be really all that big of a problem. Another thing is they're free, aren't they? They have
they're democracy.
Democracy, yeah.
Yeah.
I almost said diplomacy. Democracy. So that's another thing. Like we align at least government wise with them. They are advanced, high tech, obviously super smart. They focus so much. There's a rumor that the reason why they're smart is because of the Holocaust. The Germans annihilated all the dumb ones, is what people used to say.
Oh no, that's not true.
And that's not true. They focus so much on learning.
Yeah.
Their households focus so much. I mean, learning the Torah, the first 4 books, like memorizing that. I mean, memorization is probably easy to them. So they're super smart. They religious reasons is another thing. Like we're very similar religiously, and they also kind of accept the Western. I mean, they're very for being in the East, they're very Westernized.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was missing. That's the big thing is we said the strategics, but also they are the only Western culture in the East. I don't know that they are very similar to us. They carry very similar values, a very similar culture, and their democracy. So you hit those really well because that's I think the big reason why. And we also kind of have this. I wonder if we had this sort of fondness for them. Post. You know how the current state of Israel was originally established post
It
World
was
War II.
yeah, it was from Great Britain, right? Or maybe it was
Yes,
just
exactly. It's like the
NATO.
UN resolution from Great Britain basically granted them the land back, a two-state solution between Palestine and Israel, and so the Jewish state was established after. I mean, there's also much more history outside of that before that, but that's I think we maybe sort of have a I don't know as an also a British proxy as a or a British fork. Maybe we have that sort of connection to them too as well.
Yeah, and the last thing I'd say, and I'm reading this online. This one I didn't actually know the stats, but they make up 3% of the population in the Middle East, but 25% of all exports go there. Was the destination
Oh, really?
25% of all U.S. exports to the region,
Really?
just to that region though. So like
Yeah.
any of the exports, which you probably can say we're not exporting all that much to the Middle East, but 25% is still quite a bit.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Just for the region, like not of all United States exports.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. For
so
the
I mean,
like Middle East, is that what
yeah,
you're meaning?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's a huge amount if you consider the territory over there too,
yeah,
like how small that is.
and it just shows that they're like a lot more friendly than to us than other countries.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's because we're exporting more modern things and they're more modern society, I guess you could say. So that those are some of the bigger reasons. Um, and like I think the big thing is one of the reasons why we give them so much military funding is well the key position. Because like Egypt's really not. I mean, they're what they border with Egypt, right? So like Egypt's really not all that friendly. Yeah, they have some old like F-14s or some F-15s, but like out of the region, but Turkey's not really all that friendly, even though they're in NATO.
I don't know how.
Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, they're not really all that
Lebanon.
friendly. Lebanon, so like there's all these countries over there that don't really like us. And so to keep a close eye, we have our friendly Israel over there with a bunch of our bases and firepower, I guess you could say.
It is pretty crazy, honestly. The whole that whole situation is just fascinating. Like the whole, if you think about it, if you take, gosh, I'm gonna botch my mileage because my frame of reference is messed up. But if you took like a circle from essentially, you
Jerusalem,
know, 200 miles west of Jerusalem or east of
east of
Jerusalem,
Jerusalem.
and then circled towards Italy. So you have the whole Mediterranean / Middle East in a circle. So much of the world's relevant history has happened there, like, and it continues to happen there. And I think that's all because it's like the clash between the East versus the West. That's where the birthplace of Western civilization was in Greece, and then you had that sort of exported to Rome, and then Christianity sort of blossomed out of Rome and moved into the Middle East and then spread throughout the world. You have the birth of Islam over there, and of course, this whole time before Judaism was the original sort of main religion that Islam and Christianity forked from, and then all those wars for that region happened over and over again. You had the Crusades. Before that, you had Rome sack Jerusalem and originally established Syria, Palestina, taking it from the Jews. And it just blows my mind that that small corridor of the world just continues to be like a mainstay in world relevance.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I say funny. People died. I shouldn't laugh. But it's interesting that is there really anything over there besides historical like oh, this is where we think Jesus was, and this is where we think the Garden of Eden was, and like all that stuff, like Mesopotamia. Like besides that, maybe it's because I not from there. It's not my home. I guess you could say I don't necessarily care all that much about the land. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
I
I
don't
mean
know.
it is largely been a war over land, religious wars over land. But I think I mean, it is really where you have the birthplace of major civilizations. Of course, you still had major early civilizations in the East, like in modern China and Mongolia and some and south of that. Uh, but right there is where you have a lot of what was originally like sort of preserved in our historians and what we're taught. You have the birthplace of democracy in Greece, and these. That's why I think there's just been a sort of blossoming of culture over there. That's kind of like been the focal point. So it's not just the religious land, but the ideologies that came out of that area that have clashed. Just such opposing ideologies and such opposing religions fighting over certain spaces, and I mean realistically, like it's very wealthy in natural resources when you include the whole Middle East. It is a great shipping lane, the Mediterranean, and uh, the Adriatic, and you have it can also connects to the east, to the real east in China. So you had those early like sort of Silk Road areas going through. Uh, so I just think there's so many. It's right where everything hits. They all comes together and clashes.
Yeah, that's like I said. Maybe it's because I don't live there. I
It's also
but
beautiful. Like go to Greece. It's just beautiful land. The weather's amazing.
yeah, maybe I'm not as partial as other people towards it.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. I mean, you said the birthplace of Islam, Christianity, Judaism. I don't know if there's others that I'm missing, but
I mean, those are the three. I mean, when it comes down to it, those are the three primary religions of the world. Like, I guess Hinduism and Buddhism, but definitely not nearly as big as those three.
yeah, but those two also don't. They don't come from that area, right? I mean,
Not really close, but not really.
so yeah, it is kind of interesting. Um, so what do you think Turkey's involvement's going to be? You think they're going to be? I mean, we watched some videos recently of some stuff. What do you think their role is going to be?
I really have no idea because I didn't know hardly anything about Turkey. I still don't know much about Turkey, but I saw these. I always knew it was Erdogan is a corrupt dictator over there that, and I only know this because of the Enes Kanter stuff. If you remember several
Enos
years ago,
Freedom, come on, dude.
Enes before he became a little bit weirder or more attention seeking, he did speak out a lot about Turkey and how uh, oppressive it was over there. But I didn't really ever think they were a major player on the world scale. But this huge pro-Palestine protest in Turkey that Erdogan held looked very
Menacing.
reminiscent of a sort of Nazi, those huge Nazi military gatherings where in Erdogan, I mean, I guess if I just have to trust the translations here, but essentially said, "Hey West, I'm talking to you. Do you want a war between the cross and the crescent?" Like that seems
Basically calling for a holy war. Yeah.
yeah, that seems a little strange. So I don't know what their involvement's going to be, but they're a member of NATO, and I don't know what happens whenever there's opposing views inside NATO.
Yeah, I mean, I think they the thing is NATO basically has to bow down to the United States. Like we fund basically all of NATO.
It's
Like
true.
no one pays any fees or anything except the United
Yeah.
States. So we fund that. I think first thing that happens is we got to get all those people out of because we have military bases in Turkey. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
really? Oh,
I'm pretty sure because I know of
I
people
guess if they're a NATO ally, surely they would do.
people that we went to college with lived in like
Mm.
Turkey bases.
Hmm.
I guess I can confirm real quick. Does turkey make you sleepy? Is the first thing that came up on Google.
Oh, I just yawned right when you said that too.
Well, not military. So it looks like we have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
At least a couple. So, yeah. But like I said, the first thing happens, they did something we didn't like. We'd call everybody home because they're gonna like surround those bases. And I say that, I guess maybe not. I don't know. I'm not a military expert, so I wouldn't know what you would do. But I would think you'd be very concerned about everybody's safety on the bases.
Yeah, that seems dangerous.
Um,
I didn't
well,
see much of a big deal about those tweets yesterday in the Erdogan protest, so maybe there was some context to the quotes that were missing. That maybe that's why more people aren't freaking out about it. But gosh, the amount of people that were at that protest is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Turkey, like I said, they have some modern fighters, like semi-modern fighters, but I don't think their military is really all that large, and that could be one of the reasons why they are in NATO. Is we don't have a large military, so we're going to join NATO, and the United States will protect us.
Yeah.
It could also be a area, or maybe it's just a plant. Maybe it's all these countries getting together of like they know we all hate NATO and hate the United States so much. Turkey, you join, they don't hate you as much, and you can spy on all the meetings for us.
Oh gosh.
So I don't know. I think that's plausible. I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know that, but Turkish Armed Forces is the second largest standing military force in NATO. Maybe I was wrong about them not being very much. The 13th largest in the world. Estimated 1 million military, paramilitary, and Navy personnel. Let's see. Wow. So Turkey, let's see, 355,000 active. These are all estimates, of course. 2,500 tanks, 33 amphibious warfare ships, 13 submarines, 35 patrol or attack vessels, almost 300 fighter jets. So, like I said, I don't think they're very modern, or they might be modern.
Just have a thing. I mean, it's just crazy. All the sort of Arab states seem to be uniting as one against Israel, and I just never realized that. I didn't realize till recently that Turkey was a potential enemy. Always thought they were kind of a dysfunctional ally.
What do you think? We kind of talked about China's role a little bit. Talked about Turkey a little bit. What do you think Russia's role will be in this?
Oh man,
Do you
I
think
don't know, but Russia has funded
Iran, correct?
Iran, and by proxy through Iran, they fund Hamas, and so I don't know what they're. I mean,
You could also say that the United States funds Hamas.
that's true.
They give money to the Gaza Strip. Yeah,
yeah,
and we gave money.
Humanitarian aid. I don't know. I mean, feels like Russia is locked up on their front a little bit. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're going to have the United States role, kind of how the United States is proxying the war through Ukraine, which no matter how much propaganda we get about Ukraine is getting absolutely destroyed. I think Russia's just holding back so they don't just absolutely murder everyone.
Yeah.
Because there's such a large military. I think all that stuff about like the Ghost of Kiev obviously was fake. That came out as fake. Um,
I think we figured out that was fake within the first day.
yeah, but like it just shows like what they're trying to spew about how Ukraine is fighting against Russia and they're winning,
Mhm.
and that's completely not true.
No.
And I I don't know. I don't know why Russia. I don't know why Russia hasn't gone in and just absolutely annihilated them. I don't know if they've taken all the territory they want and they're just kind of just defending until Ukraine or United States gives up. Um, but they basically are doing what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Ukraine is winning in the slightest, but I will push back and say that when this happened, I think Putin expected a rapid like victory and surrender, sort of the way Afghanistan fell to the Taliban within like a week. I think he expected that. Now it's just become this like forever war. It seems like. Um, so I mean, I don't know. I haven't kept up nearly as much with what's going on in Ukraine, where the lines are drawn at this point. But it seems like someone needs to just make a deal and end that.
Well, if you're Ukraine, why would you surrender? You're getting a ton of money from the United States,
It's true.
and like I don't know, it just there's just so
It
many
deserves more.
backhand deals, like
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right term, but there's so many deals just happening in the background. Who knows if they're even actually fighting anymore? But because I mean, Ukraine, a lot of those people are Russian or like are former Russian. So I guess a package.
They're they're
Um,
very similar. I mean, they are basically the same culture.
like I mean, maybe that's ignorant of us to assume that they're the same, but they are very similar. Um, so who knows? Obviously none of this is confirmed. There's zero basis for this, but could be, hey, Ukraine, we're gonna fight and we're just gonna take money and just take money from the United States until they collapse because they just freaking give so much money. Um, I don't know. Who
I don't know.
knows?
I
That's
I wouldn't
playing
buy that. It just
extreme
feels
devil's
like a
advocate. That's
yeah.
like off the
For
charts.
me, it just feels like a complete sort of stalemate. Like a Russia doesn't want to come in and level the cities, so they're doing this ground war invasion. And ground war invasions, just in today's time, just don't work out. Look how long we spent in Afghanistan and Iraq. Like these things are slow, forever processes. And that's kind of what this is. This seems like it's become to me. It's just a never-ending ground war.
Yeah, and I mean, what are the chances that Russia is actually going to send soldiers to Israel and attack Israel? I would say that's almost
Zero.
0%.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't think they really care.
No.
I think they just been giving stuff like money and help funding Iran just to have an ally in the region. Um,
Yeah.
just like it's kind of like United States with Israel.
Mhm.
They're like, oh, you guys hate United States too? Okay, let's be friends and make sure we're friends. Here's like some weapons and here's some funds.
Mhm.
So I don't think they really care all that much about Israel, and it'll just seem like they're backing. It'll just be maybe it's even more propaganda for the United States of like, you guys need to hate Russia more because look, they're funding Iran and they're helping Iran to take out Israel. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't think they're going to be all that involved
No, I don't think so either. I would agree.
because it doesn't make sense for them. I mean, the Ukraine thing, in my sense, doesn't really make sense either, but they did it.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes somewhat sense. They want the area. Um, so I don't know.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. Not they won't get involved in directly into the Israel thing.
Which we have an election coming up next year, right? Is it next
Mhm.
year? Yeah.
That's
Do
crazy.
you think? Do you think that if say Joe Biden, just say Joe Biden was elected again, um, or somebody similar to him, maybe not old, but like similar policies, I think this kind of conflict could be long. But I think if you get someone in that's very military oriented and isn't going to play around with that kind of stuff, I think a lot of this will cease. Um,
Yeah.
what was it during? East Berlin, West Berlin. They had a bunch of Iran had a bunch of hostages, and once somebody got elected, I think it might have been Reagan. Once Reagan was elected, they released the hostages within the day.
Really?
Yeah, I think there was it Jimmy Carter?
Mm.
I don't know. But it was like within 24 hours after this person was elected, they released all the hostages, and that could be fake. I don't know. That's just what I've heard before.
Yeah.
So check me on that, everybody. But I think it could be, if that's true, it could be something similar situation of, okay, well, we're going to behave now. This guy really will bomb us to. They'll turn the desert into glass.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that plays a huge role. Because if you were scared of the United States, you wouldn't mess with us. Like if you were actually scared.
Yeah. Yep. You're saying exactly what I think, and I've been thinking a lot about over the last weeks. I think I've already mentioned this to you before, but what made Trump such a great foreign policy president is what made him such a sort of disaster domestically, not on a policy perspective. I actually am starting to think that foreign policy is not even policy. It's just
Who
how,
has the biggest stick?
yes, exactly. And the thing about Trump is, yeah, you can say that and Jared Kushner also did go in and try to, you know, befriend people that we typically would not befriend because they were sort of outsiders. They were different, so they came with a different perspective. But what I think made it really useful was there was just this crazy unpredictability about Trump. You don't actually know if this guy's going to nuke you or not. Like, he's crazy. So, and that also drove certain people in the U.S. crazy. So, what made him so good at foreign policy also drove a little bit of the U.S. population insane. So, it really is about like almost posturing, and I don't think you can fake posturing. I think you have to be a little crazy to do well.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And maybe
Because
we might
honestly,
not nuke you, but go ahead.
yeah, no, I'm okay. I actually think yes, I think, Trump did I think that in the back of people's minds, like, there's this idea that, like, "Wow, this guy's crazy, like, he could actually nuke us." Just a 0.5% chance completely. But the thing is, Joe Biden has not ever, um, in a foreign policy-wise, he hasn't necessarily ever spoken out loud as if he's soft. He's spoken tough, but no one's taken him as tough. Because
Yeah.
there's something different. There's something deeper to
Well, I think it's all about confidence. Like
yeah,
Trump is so confident and like not even just confident. He's
yeah,
overly cocky. He's
and what
cocky. He's
yes,
absolutely cocky, and he knows that. Guess what? You mess with us, I don't care. I'll push the button.
yeah. He said that in a freaking tweet, like,
So,
we
like,
lived in such a
I-
simulation for 4 years.
but he also, to your point, he went to South Korea or North Korea. He went to
Yeah,
North Korea, the first president in how long to go to North
I don't
Korea
know for forever.
and like actually talk to the guy.
Yep,
Like now, obviously, Kim Jong Un talks to some pretty crazy people like Dennis Rodman, but like Trump went over there, stepped on North Korean territory or land,
mhm.
had a conversation, and a lot of that stuff seemed to quiet down over there. Maybe the guy's just looking for attention by firing these
I mean,
rockets
it really did.
into the ocean, and somebody finally was like, "Hey, I'll give you a little bit of attention."
Yeah, objectively, maybe there's a lot of luck when it comes to foreign policy. Like,
Just
there's probably
timing.
a lot of things that you can't control. Maybe if Trump had, won 2020, then Russia, Ukraine still would have happened. Maybe there's a lot. It's too hard to tell, but it is just a fact that there was no new war started. Everything calmed down. ISIS was eliminated, and North Korea was calmed down. There was rising tensions with China. I think that's the one big, um, maybe negative foreign policy. It could be negative, could be positive if we did get our industrial base back a little bit. But that's really the only relationship that strained under Trump a little bit.
Well, I think they felt threatened that
Yeah,
manufacturing was coming back here. This guy's serious about this. And then also of like it could be okay, you're cocky, well, I'm cocky too.
yeah.
You can't just pounce on me. I have a military and I'm willing to fight back.
Hmm.
And so a lot of people when you're like that overly confident, they will like retreat.
Yeah.
But if you get somebody that's just as crazy or just as cocky as you, things are going to escalate.
Yeah.
So that could be one of those situations.
Yeah, yeah, real good. But I think, like you said, the big thing is they actually like sat down with these people that we consider evil, and maybe that's a necessity when it comes to being the leader of the free world. You got to sit with people that you don't necessarily think are good people.
I did see something that said, or see it, somebody talking about that they think Trump will be, if Trump's elected, he'll be assassinated, that the CIA will assassinate him. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I mean,
possible.
if Vivex is VP, I guess it's not that big a deal.
They
No.
I mean, they say stuff like that all the time, and it
Yeah.
doesn't happen. But
But I mean, if you think election deniers are bad now, if Joe Biden and Trump are facing off again in the
oh my gosh,
and Biden wins again, I think there could be some serious like
it's gonna be real
this
bad.
this don't get stressed about it yet, Keaton. It hasn't happened. Um, I don't know. I just think like if you thought January 6th was bad, I feel like people are going to go insane when they see the numbers of like, okay, everybody hated Joe Biden, but we still voted for him. Like he did a terrible job. Look at this. This war. If something's going
Mhm.
on, and I don't know. I think people will just go insane of like, this has to be rigged.
I think
So
it would be very bad. I'm actually very worried about that. But there's a long time between now. I mean, the crazy thing is the narratives shift so much. I think if the election was held right now, it would be a landslide. If for Trump, it wouldn't even be close because Biden's very unpopular. But I think, gosh, these things change so freaking fast that the next big thing could happen tomorrow. I mean, I don't know. We could, I don't know, mine a gold asteroid or something, and economics is solved forever, and Joe Biden's the new greatest president. I mean, things change so fast that there's just no telling until maybe a month or two before.
yeah, I think what hurts Trump is he's not doing any of those debates, and I think it hurts him. And Joe Biden doesn't do any of the debates, and nobody seems to really care. So
I think it helps them both because I think they're both very dislikable, and someone has actually, I gotta say, hand it to whoever's running Trump's campaign because he seems like such a difficult personality to deal with. Like he has very narcissistic tendencies. And it seems like it'd be hard to tell him what to do. And someone has convinced him to not do these debates and take the less attention, and it works. It somehow works for him because that's what I mean. Really, that's what Joe Biden did in the 2020 election because he is in such bad shape. They just hit him under the ground, and that helped him. And I think that they're taking the same road with Trump.
because he couldn't
Just
embarrass himself,
just
maybe.
because yeah, not embarrass himself, but he makes some people so angry. And
Well, I was
that's
saying Joe Biden. Joe Biden would
oh
embarrass
yes, Joe
himself.
Biden from embarrassing himself and Trump from firing up the opposing voters. Uh, so I think it's a strategy.
Yeah, because well, I mean, I think he went on Tucker Carlson right during the debate.
Yeah.
Um, I think that was, I guess, if you're going with the theory that you have, that's
Mhm.
smart because one, the people that oppose him are not going to watch Tucker Carlson, and they're not going to watch Trump on there.
Yep.
So like, I think that was a smart move of like getting your message out there, I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. I still think it hurts him because like his current, maybe I'm not thinking it through all the way, but his current base loves him. Why aren't you on the debate stage? Like, are you scared? I don't know.
I think
But
he.
maybe they're so always Trump
Yeah.
that they're so always Trump that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He could do what he said and shoot somebody and go up in the polls.
It is true. It's
So
unfortunately true.
okay. So final thoughts on the war, realistic or not?
uh, realistic. Yes, realistic.
Okay. I say if anything's going
I
to
think
happen, it's going to
10%
be in the next
chance.
65 days.
Holy crap!
If anything happens,
that's a call.
hot takes. Remember, Okay, so you think it's realistic? I think if anything, if it doesn't happen in the next 2 months, 2.5 months or so, then I think it's going to sizzle down and nothing's going to happen.
I mean, the best case scenario is kind of like this Israel thing just ends really fast. I think that would calm things down a lot.
Yeah. Okay, we talked about Ukraine. What's your final thoughts on Ukraine? And
I
like,
don't know.
we're just losing it, or they're just losing, and
They're
Russia.
losing, but it's this forever war right now. That's kind of what it feels like. But I just haven't seen much out of it anymore.
Yeah. I think it needs to end, and I think it's going to end soon because I think politicians are hearing their. I don't want to say representatives. That's not the right term. They're
Yeah,
representatives. So what is their populace? I guess you could say is upset and saying
yeah.
we got to stop sending. So I think the money ends soon, and I think the war stops, and Russia gets their piece of land or whatever, and Ukraine's pissed, and because I don't even know, have they even joined NATO yet?
No, I don't think they were
They never
going
filed the
to
paperwork, I guess. Apparently, some of the Scandinavian countries are very, very much scared of Russia and trying to
join NATO.
use that. Then, okay, so Turkey, you think big player or no?
I don't know enough about Turkey. It
Okay,
seems like as of yesterday, yeah, kind of, but no.
yeah, I think they're a bigger player than Russia and China are going to be in the conflict, even though they're the big names attached to it. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in this next election cycle. Any final closing thoughts?
Nope. I think I generally agree with everything that you just said.
All right. Well, this has been something cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.